Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Revolution podcast. I'm Jill Ogle, and today I have with me Jen Haddix, who is an amazing woman, and she's also a spiritual business coach and certified sound healer. So welcome, Jen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so pleased to meet you. And it's great to be able to converse with people all over the world in all sorts of topics. But mostly, I really love speaking with people that are like-minded because
Mhm.
not to say that I don't like speaking to people that have different opinions, but it's just great to find, like-minded souls all over the world. So I'm really
Yeah.
grateful to have you here. So we just prior to starting the podcast, we just touched on the US election and what was
hmm
going on there. And, in my perception, I guess Trump and this amazing team that he has with him is part of the spiritual revolution, and
Yes.
this sort of great awakening that we've just gone through over the COVID period.
hmm
I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I've got so many, I wouldn't even know where to start. Like I said before when we were chatting before we came onto the podcast today, I do believe that Trump is a gigantic part of the Great Awakening, of the Golden Age. I believe, because I do support Trump, that he is going to usher in the Golden Age with a lot of his visions and his strengths and the things that he's going to do. Like you said, his amazing team, RFK, Elon, all of them, I think, are there for the bigger good. If you
Mm,
watch American media, it does not look that way, but we all know
mm,
that the media is the enemy of the people and they are the absolute worst. And so, but regardless of that, I think even the people that are really, really upset, I've watched the process since election day. I've
yes.
been watching a lot of my left leaning friends and the conversations that they're having and the things that they're saying. And they're devastated and they're really angry and they're really upset. But I'm watching their mind shift. They're not necessarily looking in the mirror just yet. They're not pointing fingers at the Democrats or anything like I wish they would. Not that we need that duality, but they're just kind of realizing like, oh, it starts with me. It's an autonomous
Yes.
movement. It's a movement about my ability to run my own life and my
Mm,
individuality. It's not about a higher elected official. And even though they're really upset, I'm watching them figure it out.
yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, it's
And
cool.
and and that's really key, right? Because even if Trump hadn't won, I believe
hmm
that there would have been this sort of mass awakening as because as we know, like contrast in life is
Yes.
what causes us to, wake
Yes.
up to our own shit and our own programming. And yeah, so I think I really do believe that there would have been this kind of next level of awakening happening.
Yes.
Um, Having said that, I am grateful that Trump's in and that, you know, even this, I don't know if you follow astrology or not, but Pluto moving out of well, I know it's moved.
Capricorn, right?
Oh,
Into Aquarius, right? Okay, yeah. And I'm an Aquarius with a Capricorn stellium, so this is all my energy right now.
right. Yeah, well, I'm four
Yeah.
times Capricorn in my chart.
You
Sun,
are
moon.
too. Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got four Capricorn placements, so
So it's like, this kind of
hmm
breath of fresh air coming in. And
cute
Lisa's
little
having
baby.
Lisa's having
Oh,
I'm just gonna Mum built a little tower in the background for him so that he could run up and look out the window so he wouldn't bark, but now he just goes up there and barks.
now he sees everything to bark. Yeah. That's so cute. But yeah, astrology, Capricorn, Aquarius.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's leaving for the first time in I think 16 years or something. So that's huge
hmm
too.
hmm
Yeah. So no, it's great. It's great to hear from people that get it, that get what is happening in this world.
Yeah.
And yeah, while we don't want to let that control us, I think it's really wise to be aware of what's going on and, not get caught up in it, which I have been at times. But
Me too.
yeah, yeah. And I think, the distinction is like, yes, we can see what's going on. Yes, we might get caught up with it at times, but we also understand like the bigger picture and that it is a reflection of us and,
hmm
um, yeah. So anyway, let's see what happens in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that it is a global phenomenon and it does sort of flow out into, particularly Australia.
Yeah,
And
I think it should be. That's why I was actually surprised that you're from Australia and that you're so interested. And that kind of tells me that so many people have
yeah,
their eyes on the US because we're the last frontier of freedom. The communism is a cancer that takes over everything. And I know some people don't see it that way here, but they don't understand. They don't see the early signs. They don't see the color revolution. They don't see what COVID was. They don't see the control of the people that are trying to control us. And if we lose it, the entire world is screwed.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that, just the fact that not just that Trump's back in, but he is taking this huge stance against, people trying to get rid of freedom of speech and,
Yep.
big pharma and like all of
Yeah.
these sort of ideas, like the woke mentality, like all of these ideas that really were leading us down this path of, I didn't even want to, I don't even want
It's
to imagine.
terrifying, which I had the same thoughts. So I'm like, if Kamala wins, I guess that's what the collective signed up for. And I guess that's what I was like trying to mentally prepare myself for that in case it
Same.
happened because
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I guess we're going down in a fire of communism and I don't know, I guess I'm ready for it. I don't know, I'm armed. We have guns here still, so I've got, all of that going on here. But yeah, I just I'm glad it didn't go that way. But I do
Like,
think that there's going to be a lot of revolution with people because
yes.
there's going to be a lot of like I have a lot of friends that if they found out, which they might, and I'm prepared to stand up for what I believe in, but it will cause a lot of relationships to crumble.
Mm,
And I think that's part of the revolution too. There's something to be
absolutely.
done there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, there's always destruction and rebuilding going on.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, to me, this is going to provide the contrast to the people that haven't awakened yet.
Yep.
Because I mean, we've seen what's going on social media and whatnot.
Yeah.
With people who voted for Kamala, and so
Hmm.
Trump is still providing that massive contrast for them
Yeah.
to awaken, while we get to kind of, take a breath for a moment.
I was gonna say because we've been kind of freaking out for years, right? So it felt like a huge weight off of my shoulders. I was like, oh my God, I get to breathe for a second because this has been really stressful. It's been really stressful. So that's a really good point, actually. It's like they're going to get we've had a lot of contrast for a while now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the other thing too. We saw the election get stolen and they gaslit the entire public into saying that didn't happen. And I watch people now say, you're crazy if you think that the election was stolen or if January 6th wasn't real. I'm like, did you watch the video footage of that? How could you possibly think
yeah,
that that was real? I don't
yeah,
understand. It's
yeah.
very, the split here is very confusing.
Yeah, and when you look at the numbers in the elections over the years for the Democratic Party, like the anomaly
Hmm.
in 2020, it's so obvious. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
And they're still asking, like, where'd those 20 million people go? I'm like, really? You don't have the right? Okay, sure. That's the question to ask, I guess. Like,
They're still
okay.
where they were in 2020 in the cemetery.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild. So crazy.
Oh man. Anyway, I have to say, the last 4 or 5 years has been brilliant for memes, if nothing else.
Oh my God. The meme wars are a real thing. The history books are going to be like, we won the war with memes. And it's like, we did. That's how you educate people on stuff. It's hilarious.
Oh man, I love it so much. I love it so much. At least we can laugh. And look, I mean, you know, looking at what's happened in just the day or two after President Trump being reelected was like
Hmm.
incredible, incredible to
Hmm.
see the shifts in Putin and Hamas and
I know.
it's amazing. So people will wake up as they start to sort of see, as they get beyond themselves, and their own fears and whatever, and start to see that the world hasn't ended, like it's still going
Hmm.
on. Yeah, I think
Yep.
they'll come around. But we having said that, we we do need both sides too, right? Like, and
Yes,
while I love having like-minded conversations, there's also a need for an opposition, so that we can, have different opinions, etc. So
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me a little bit more about you. So you're a spiritual business coach and you're a
Hmm.
certified sound healer, and I know that you've got a
Hmm.
whole like, bunch of other things that you are capable and an expert in, which I think is kind of somewhat um like it feels to, I mean, I don't know whether it's kind of a normal thing for folk like us, but it seems to be like that was my journey too, of like,
Hmm.
let me try this and let me try that and let
Hmm.
me explore this one, and just that
Yeah.
path of the seeker of um trying to probably understand self and trying to understand
Yes.
others. And yeah, so tell me, I'd love to hear your story. Like, what was your catalyst moment for you where you went, I think there's something more to life?
So I'll keep it as short and succinct as I can, but I come from a very challenging childhood. My mom was a drug addict and she died of an overdose when she was 46, which was in my early 20s. But having grown up in a drug household, it caused a lot of issues with me. And I was also very heavy. So I had a lot of just pain. I had a lot of
Yeah.
pain and a lot of stress. And I'm diagnosed bipolar, which I do feel that here and there, but I'm a very holistic homeopathic person now. And so I kind of think that that is one of the ways that the medical system keeps you. Yeah. So I've got plenty I could say on that. Not that I'm not going to ever downplay anyone's mental illness because I do think I know it feels very real.
Yes.
But that's been one of my struggles. So anyway, so that was kind of like my upbringing. And then I used to do competitive bodybuilding in like the early 2010s. And so I was really heavy for a long time. And then I lost a bunch of weight and went on stage in the sparkly bikini and the whole tan and the whole thing. And after that, like I thought all my problems would be solved because I lost all that weight and it's all I ever wanted or whatever. And I had never been more miserable in my life. I got last place and then I couldn't stop eating and I gained 30 pounds in like 2 months. I shaved my head. I had a Britney moment and I just like went off the deep end and I'm like, and then I got diagnosed bipolar and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I don't know what my deal is. And so I actually went to something called Overeaters Anonymous, which is kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous for people who can't stop eating.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I was just
Yeah.
having yeah, and it's needed because some people have food addictions and I didn't really, but I was just struggling. And that's where met my first mentor who just kind of, she's not in my life now, but she gave me the very first glimpse of something zoomed out, that there
Mm,
was something more than what I saw. And so
mm,
that kind of just started the journey. I met a homeopath who helped me get off of my meds. I did my yoga teacher training and just everything kind of started to stack up. And it's funny though, because I have a lot of students now. I've got a lot of people who are in my space, in my community, who see me, I don't want to say as like an elevated figure, but they look up to me as somebody, as a healer, because that's
yeah.
how I position myself, and I believe that I am. But I had one of them a couple of years ago ask me, like, how did you become this? I'm like, I don't even know. It just happened. It just
Yeah.
over time, the layers came off, and this is who I
Mm,
am. And I don't even, I feel like I've jumped timelines because I don't even know that girl anymore. It's interesting.
yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's the wounded healer, right? That's the wounded healer, the
Yes.
the journey, the hero's journey. It's so
Yep.
beautiful. And I, you know, in the work I do, and I don't want to talk about me too much, but it's all about bringing things into balance. So it's interesting for me to hear that you were overweight, like on one extreme, and then you went to the other
Hmm.
extreme of like super super fit, and now you've come back into balance, which is the true
Hmm.
you. And this
Yep.
is typically what happens, right? And I agree with you. I think that bipolar is often mislabeled. It's just that we have these sort of splits in perception and highs
Yep.
and lows. If we can bring ourselves into balance more with our thinking, with our mind, and open our hearts, then that's when we settle in that space of authenticity, which you've done so beautifully. I love that.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I love that. And I just really want to make note for people that are listening, that that these moments of contrast and these moments of pain, you know, if you haven't come out the other side yet, that you absolutely will, because
Yes.
I don't know a spiritual person, you know, who is thriving that hasn't had moments of like, what the fuck, you know,
Yes.
what the fuck is
Yes.
happening to me? Who am
Uh-huh.
I am so lost right now. Dark night of the
Yep.
soul. So I just really thank you for sharing that, and just really want to make note to the people listening that you'll get through this, and
Yes.
you know, there is always, you know, light after the dark. So
That's
yeah,
beautiful. And I could not agree more, because I think that when you're in it, it doesn't feel like you're ever going to get out. But I promise you that you will. And it's going to be better on the other side because you went through it.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key point too, you know, like I think when you're in it, you're like, I just
Yeah.
want to get rid of this challenging situation.
Yep.
But you look at some of the greatest minds, the most talented people, the most
Mhm.
revered people in our lifetime. It's because of their challenges
Yeah.
that they are who they are. You know, I do a lot of Carl Jung's work, and it was in his moment of mental asylum, kind of, you know, his mental asylum
Hmm.
era, that he discovered his greatest work. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so it's keep going, just keep going.
Hmm.
Your
Please keep
challenges
going.
are there to support your growth and to get you through to the other side. So
Yep.
yeah, thank you. um yeah, so talk to me about sound healing, and like I love sound healing, I love somatics. I really I think it's so important.
Hmm.
Frequency, all of that. So talk to me about that. Like, what's your theory on that? What, you know, how did you get started in sound healing?
So I'm not a super scientific person. So I like to share that off the bat, because some people love the science about it, and that's just not my jam. I'm very like, I can feel that it works. I've seen it work,
Perfect.
and I just know. But it was a download. So I've been a yoga teacher for some time, maybe 6 years now. And a couple of years ago, I got this download that said, buy some crystal bowls. And I'm like, and I'm clairaudient, so sometimes I hear, like, not very often, but occasionally a message like pushes its way through, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And so I heard that, and I was like, I don't know how to play the bowls. I don't have the money for the bowls, and so I just kind of like pushed it aside, and it just kept coming, kept coming, kept coming. So I was like, fine, I'll just spend my last $1,500 on a set of bowls. I work at a yoga studio, so I was like, hey, can I use the studio for my first sound healing? And it's opened so many doors for me. I can't even, it was clearly the right move, and it was very divinely guided. I have a background in musical theater, so music has always been my thing. I sing and I
Right.
dance and I do all of that. And so I'm in singing lessons now. But it's just evolved into this really beautiful thing. But what's coming through me specifically, all sound healers are very different, but what comes through me is I want to hold a safe space for people to not only feel the vibration and let it do its work, but create the vibration themselves. And so I often facilitate a space at the end for people to sing with me or chant with me. I also I do sound healing certifications now. So I certify other sound healers in my area. And one of my students sent me this meme, and it was like, when did basic human, dancing and singing, something that we all do and have done for thousands of years, become a skill that only certain people are allowed to do?
Mm,
And I say that being a skilled singer and dancer, but I don't think that you need to be in order to
no.
feel the power of that. And think about how I would say the higher agenda probably was like, let's elevate these voices, let's keep everybody else quiet, because when your throat chakra's closed, you're not powerful. And
Yep.
even if you can't sing, I want you to try, because it's one of the most powerful things that you could ever do. And so that's what I'm really passionate about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm still
No.
trying to figure out how to like deliver that. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you delivered it really well, really well. And I agree with you. And you know, we see this often in people that, you know, they don't want to rock the boat, and they don't want to
Hmm.
disrupt. They don't want to, you know, they just want to be nice and pleasant, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we end up with all sorts of thyroid issues. I've got thyroid cancer at the moment, which
You
my
do?
Yeah, my
Oh my
nodules.
gosh.
Yeah, so my nodules have shrunk. I've managed to shrink the nodules, and I feel actually better than ever. Um, but yeah, singing was one thing that I was thinking of taking up, like to get that out.
Yes.
And this
Hard
podcast,
yes.
yes, and the podcast is also part of that too,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Talking to people, and yeah, so absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you encourage people to sing at the end of it as well. Like because you're not just it's not just being enveloped in that frequency and in that music. It's about the expression, the
Hmm.
self-expression. I love that. And
Yeah.
I heard a while ago that actually everyone has the ability to sing. It's just
Yes.
that we don't take the time to. It's like meditation, like
Hmm.
and intuition and all these things. Like we all have these abilities, but we don't realize that it's actually a skill set. It's not a natural, like it's not a gift. Like,
It's
yes.
not like some people are naturally gifted at it, but it's not something that you can't learn how to do. But if you think about it, because I get so fired up about this, like the only places we really sing now are in church
Mm,
or in what I like to do, which is kirtan circles. So I use my harmonium and I like to host, and that's like a beautiful way to do it. And I use that as my tool. But people are like, oh, well, I don't sound good, so I can't. So even if you
mm,
took them into singing lessons, they feel embarrassed, they feel ashamed. They might have been a little kid singing in the car and their mom said, oh, stop doing that. That sounds terrible. And just think about how that immediately,
totally.
from a young age, just completely squashed you. And
Yeah,
now you've got this power center that's not being used, and you wonder why things are challenging. And that's one of the main reasons why.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it impacts so much, like
Mhm.
when we don't feel safe to express ourselves, we shut ourselves down. It just impacts so many other things, so many other areas of
Mhm.
life. Yeah,
Yep.
no, I love that. I remember a friend of mine, when we were teenagers, I was singing full out in the car one day with my now ex-husband, actually. um, and actually early 20s, sorry, it would have been early 20s, because yeah. Um, and he said something to me about my singing, and my ex-husband was like, she's not that bad. And you know I think it actually did impact me. I think it actually did kind of shut me down a little bit.
Mhm.
But I mean, I've recorded myself lately, and I don't think I'm terrible. I think I could probably use some work, but you know,
Well,
it's
good for you for recording yourself. That's very healing.
oh yeah, yeah. You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do. I really do. I don't know if you know do you know your human design?
I do. Yeah, I'm a 5-1 generator.
A 5 1. Okay, five. That I'm a 5 2 projector. But I'm self projected, so I have a lot of that vocal stuff
Got
going on. But
it.
yeah, I think recording yourself and listening, because my vocal teacher has me do that. He'll be like, let's record you singing this song. I want you to go back and listen to it and give me 5 likes and 5 work-ons, but like be really nice to don't go in there, just pick the whole thing apart.
Yeah, yeah.
Listen, like really listen to yourself and really feel there, our voices are really powerful.
They are.
They really I like if I'm ever leading people in singing at the end, I have one tonight. I'm gonna have them all do it with me tonight. But I can't stop smiling because I can just feel the power of it. And I had a woman come up to me after and she was like, I didn't realize my voice was stolen from me when I was like 15, and I haven't sang in 20 years, and I like people just I don't know. I'm really if anybody's listening to this and you have any inkling at all to do any kind of chanting or singing or anything, please do it because I think this is a big part of the revolution.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think yeah, people finding their voices, and if we all moved through life, you know fully empowered, sharing our truth, standing in our power, doing what's important to us, working on our own triggers, we'd live in a very different world. But what we
Yes.
do is we contort ourselves to fit in with others, to be liked, to be accepted, to be
Mhm.
all these other things. And then you get to a certain age, and it's like, well, I don't even know who I am anymore because
Yeah.
I've pretended to be this other version of me for so long.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that people are getting real insights into what's going on for them
Yes.
in these classes. Yeah. It's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So, okay, and so talk to me about how you work in the spiritual business realm, because we're going to have a lot of spiritual types on here. I'm sure they're starting out as entrepreneurs and
Hmm.
as healers and guides, and maybe they're having challenge getting started in that arena. Like, what would be a couple of top tips to give people?
So, in the years that I've been a business coach, I'm now crafting an offer around this that I'm going to launch at the next month. At the end of the year, that's next month. Um, and so I work with people on all the tech and the funnels and the emails and all that stuff that you need to have, like all the
Yeah.
systems you need to do a business. But it doesn't even matter because what I've realized is if you are too afraid to show up, if you are too afraid to speak out or be authentic or do your actual messaging in the way that feels like you want to in your heart, you're either going to be successful and unfulfilled and
Yes.
just taking anyone who doesn't really align with you, or you're going to have a really hard time getting clients because you're not speaking in the way that your clients need to hear you to frickin' find you. And so
Exactly.
I'm creating this 12-month program where we do a lot of healing, embodiment, leadership work, but the main thing is heal is the first pillar. And so if anybody is starting out their business or they're currently in a successful on paper business, but they're like, I feel really unfulfilled or I don't like my clients or whatever the case may be, I encourage you to do some inner child work. That's one of
Mm,
my favorite things to prescribe because your inner child came into this world knowing exactly why they were here and
yep.
what their mission was and what they really wanted to do. And you just probably have long since beat it out of them, or society has beat it out of you. And so I like to sit with her and just
Mm,
imagine she's sitting on my lap and just hear what she has to say. And hey,
mm,
what do you want to do today? What do you
mm,
really want to do? And so for
mm.
me, singing and dancing is a really big part of my life, and it always was. And I took about 10 years off. And I have been actively going to singing lessons every single week. I dance 3 times a week. I make time for it. And my business is doing better. Even though it doesn't seem related, it is. And so ask them what they want to do and make time for them to do that because the ideas will come, the clients will come, the blockages will leave. I have a lot of other things that I prescribe, but that one is, I think, a good starting point.
I could not agree more. What I call that is it's values alignment. It's
Okay.
because yeah, like it's a similar thing, right? We have this innate knowing of what we love to do, what's meaningful to
Hmm.
us, what lights us up. And when you follow that, like it's a soul thing for
Yes.
me as well. That's how deep it goes. Is so when you live in alignment with your soul and what's important to you, then you're going to have more certainty, you're going to have more
Hmm.
energy, you're going to have clearer thinking, you're going to be
Hmm.
focused, you're going to be on task, you're going to have like this love for life. And
Hmm.
I think, yeah, what you said was about meaning. People that follow the money, um, they think they have to do a certain job because that's where the money is. They have to be,
Hmm.
this type of coach or this type of facilitator or this type of
Yeah,
whatever, because I'm looking at someone right now and they're making a lot of money doing that. Then they
exactly.
associate, yeah, and they associate, well, that's like, I could do that, so why don't I do that? And it's like, no, find your find your unique source, find your unique thing going on for you and do that, and then find out how to get paid really well to do that.
Exactly. And I do want to share, just as a little side note, that I recognize that that's really challenging because if you follow any traditional coaches, they tell you you need to niche down, you need to advertise to the masses to get more people. That's how that's how bro marketing has been working for so long. But because we're on the Spiritual Revolution podcast, I want to share that we are the front lines of the revolution, which means you're going to be creating something new. You're creating
Yes.
new techniques and ways to get clients and ways to attract people. You're not meant to advertise to everybody because you came
Mm,
here for a certain soul group of people to come to get your services. So it's going to
totally.
feel hard at first only
Yes.
because the paradigm is breaking, but it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's just because we're creating a new way to do things.
I love that. I love that. And yeah. And so when you get established and you're making that money, you're also going to have the
Hmm.
fulfillment. You're also going to have the meaning, like, instead of following the money, switching it and doing the thing you love first. And
Hmm.
exactly understanding that it might take a moment to get where you want to be, but
Yes.
if you're doing what you love, it won't matter anyway because you're doing what
Yes.
you love. Whereas if you're
Yes.
not doing what you love and you're struggling and you're all of these things, then that's a clear sign too, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll be transparent because I think that people look at me and see somebody very successful, and I am successful, but I still have a ways to go. And to get to where I am today, I didn't just stop work, like, because people are hearing that might go, well, how am I supposed to quit my job and do what I love? I need money, right? And that's very fair and very true. I have done side jobs for a very long time in order to support what it is that I'm doing, and
Yes.
slowly but surely it's happening. So I had a dog walking company for a long time, so I walked dogs to make money. I bartended a little bit. I've done things to support
Yes.
this. And so
Yeah.
for the people that are very practical and they hear that and they go, cool, Jill, but how do I just do what I love? I hear that a lot. So
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. No, and I get that too. I get that too. I guess it's just, yeah, it's like you said, even if you do have other jobs, you know that those jobs are supporting you into getting you where you
exactly.
love, rather than going, yeah, rather than saying, I know that you know, meditation teachers can make big money because I have seen Joe Dispenza and I want to be like
Exactly.
that. No, what's important to you? What's important to you?
Yeah.
What makes you come alive? What is your thriving, meaningful, way of being? Yeah. And for
And it's
sure.
often the thing that comes easily. Yeah. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, exactly.
It really,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, these things will come easy to you. You'll be energized. So
Mhm.
that's a key thing too. If you're feeling fatigued and you're feeling like you're having symptoms in your body, that's your body telling you that that's not your jam. Like,
Yep.
and yeah, so if you can look at those side gigs as not a hassle or a pain or whatever, but actually they're empowering you to get on
Yes.
mission. They're empowering you to live that soul dream. Then
Hmm.
you'll think differently about those side gigs.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally agree.
yeah, yeah. Um, love this conversation. Really, really love talking with you. I want to ask you, this is a theme that I ask throughout each of my podcasts. And I know that we touched on things at the beginning, but specifically to you, like, what does this spiritual revolution mean to you? What does a spiritual revolution mean to you?
I really see it, I feel like, from the standpoint of an Aquarius, because Aquarius really does not like the boxes. I have not wanted to be put in a box my entire life, but even as I've broken it, I've watched everybody around me. They, like you said, they stay small, they get in the box, and they are like, okay, I just want everybody to like me, and I just want to fit in, and I want to be where the money is because so and so told me so. I really think that the revolution is, I mean, there's a lot of things that it is, but from my most passionate standpoint, it's breaking that down because literally, like you said earlier, if everybody was doing what was in their hearts and saying what was on their minds and leading from a place of love, the world would be a much different place. And we're not that far away from it. I know we feel like we are because we see so many people that are not awake or whatever, but really the revolution starts with you. So if
Mm,
everybody starts to jump on board, that's why I'm so passionate about business coaching, because the more people that we can get out of the workforce and into their passion and really creating the change they came here to create, the quicker we're going to get to wherever it is that we're going. And so I really think the revolution is breaking down all of these structures that we've been told, all of these things. Like, as a side note, like I've never wanted to be married. It just has never appealed to me in any ever. And I am with my soulmate right now. We don't even live together. We've been together for almost 4 years. He's my best friend. He's my favorite person. And I'm like, you know what? For a while I fought it. I'm like, oh, I should because that's what we're supposed to do. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Like, no. So even things like that,
mm,
anything where we feel like we're supposed to be something, I
mm,
think all of that is fading. I think it's going away. And
mm.
then we get to be what we came here to be, which is anything we want. We're literally divine creators. We can be anything. And
Yes.
instead we're working at desks, and it's silly. It's not going to be like that for much longer. I can feel it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, if you work at a desk and you thrive working at a desk,
Oh
then
yeah, please, if you're happy with it, great. I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
judging at
yeah.
all. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for
No, and I
sure.
don't want to, because some people really do, especially like generators. A lot of generators are brought joy
Mm,
by being in support roles or doing things where they are like really generating for something that they feel passionate about. And so I
mm.
don't want to like shit on that at all. But as a
No, no, for
projector,
sure.
I tend to kind of zoom out a little bit and I'm like, I see a bigger thing, and this is just I see a bigger vision.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, absolutely. I know what you're saying. It's if you're at a desk job and you don't want to be at that desk job, then it's time, to
That's what I
start
mean.
like
And people feel chained to it, right? They feel like, well, I
yes,
don't know how else to make money. So I have to do this. And I just imagine these poor souls getting up every day, dreading going to that. And I don't want that for you. I feel like
totally.
we're leaving that soon.
Totally. We've
Yeah.
got lawyers that want to be gardeners and gardeners that want to be doctors
Yes.
and, you know, teachers that want to be healers. And, so yeah, we're kind of a bit all over the place um, with not living in alignment with our truth. And I think that
Yeah.
it's so important, to live a life that you truly love. You got to get up each day doing things that you really love. Like
Hmm.
yeah, it's not rocket science, but sometimes we kind of need to hear that to go, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your energy. I love your mission in life. I love what you're doing to
Thank
help
you.
people. And yeah, I would love for you to come back at another time down the track and talk
Yeah.
again and yeah, keep the conversation going. So thank you. And we're going to pop some links below this episode of how people can get in contact with you and work with you and maybe become certified as well as a sound healer. So
Hmm.
beautiful. Thanks for being on, Jen.
Yay.
I really appreciate it. And yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, let's talk again soon.